All right, cool. Yeah, we're live on the recording. We have Duke Robertson from Chatsworth. So this is going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be kind of a Q&A demo of some of the Qubit stuff, and really excited about this. And we did bring in some LVN directors and ambassadors that have a lot of experience with Qubit and Chatsworth. So, and thank you to Brittany for joining as well, and kind of getting this all together. You've been great so far, and love Chatsworth, love the products, and yeah, I'm gonna just kind of kick it over to Mason, because Mason has a lot of experience, and I like to get his input on that. So Mason, you've used Qubit, and what other products, and yeah, just give me a brief rundown.
It was the Qubit and a couple of the Quadra racks, and then their ladder rack is what we have experience with, and then some of their vertical wall mount racks. So we first saw them on a job site down in southern Indiana on a I think it was roughly 2 million square foot facility, and there was probably 20 to 30 IDFs, and just seeing the quality of it, we were ripping out old Hubble racks and putting in Chatsworth, and ever since then I've just been kind of addicted to using them. They're well thought out. The Qubit stuff is well engineered, and you can tell there's a lot of attention to detail and a lot of accessories that go with it. So I've been really happy with it. I haven't used really any of their data center driven products, but all of their wall mount products we've used, and we've used their open frame a couple times, which is, in my opinion, the best one out on the market. You can actually get it level, it's sturdy, and it works well. So
yeah, thanks, Mason. So those of you that have just joined the call, just keep your phones on mute, but I do want to open it up to a Q&A as he does some demoing of the 3D model. So feel free to jump in, or you can use the chat and Meet, and I'm also monitoring the Slack workspace in the ambassador channel as well as general. So feel free to post questions in there, or if you just want to jump in, just unmute yourself and ask away. I do want to kick it over to Chris Tiffany. Tiffany, you have the Chatsworth. What products are you using?
Yeah, so we've used them for a few years, mostly the open frame wall racks. We use a ton of those, and recently we've got some of the floor racks as well. I don't think we've had a chance to use any of the Qubit stuff yet, but we might have used one or two. But so far, yeah, their build quality, especially, has always been impressive. You know, we haven't had any issues, and we've got a really a great new 45U Unit 1 at our new HQ there that we're super excited about. That's you know, full height, full NEMA 5 rack there with AC built in, stuff like that. So really excited to kind of get more in depth in some of their more data center or you know, heavier duty stuff outside of their kind of small business rack size as well. So nothing but good things to say for sure. So highly recommend them.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah. So I got a message that I'm breaking up pretty bad, so hopefully you guys can hear me. But I do want to kick it over to Duke, and if you could just give a demo of the Qubit rack.
Sure. No, thanks, Blake, and thanks everybody else for the kind words and having me on. Excited to talk about our Qubit walnut cabinet. This is actually our third generation of the product. It's one of the more popular products, actually. It's been around for, say, about 20 years now, and we came out with this latest generation about two years or so ago. So rather than just kind of go through a typical PowerPoint, you know, product overview type presentation, I will start with a few intro slides, but then I want to move over to the actual 3D model of the cabinet with a lot of the popular accessories already in it, and it's the same software that we designed all of our products in. So I'll be able to manipulate the model, zoom in, zoom out, look inside, and whatever feature you want me to focus in on. So yeah, if you do have a question about anything I'm talking about, feel free to speak up. But just the Qubit in general, as you know, those of you who have used it in the past, it's a wall-mounted enclosure. We offer several heights, several different configurations, but The idea is that it saves a lot of space, then take up a lot of valuable floor space, mounts to the wall, and then through an internal latch, you can swing the entire center chassis out away from the wall to give you access to the back of the equipment. So there's several things that we wanted to address in the development of this third generation of Qubit. One, we wanted to increase the load rating. So the previous generation had a load rating of 200 pounds. This new generation has a load rating of 300 pounds, but is also UL listed under the 2416 listing. Now that's important to know and understand because the UL 2416 requirements are fairly strict with respect to load ratings. So, for instance, the requirements are whatever a manufacturer advertises the load rating to be, it must be tested to 4 times that amount without catastrophic failure. So, even though this is literally a 2-foot tall box, we have 1,000 pounds or over 1,000 pounds loaded into it and hinged away from the wall, and it passed with flying colors. So that's a really key, important aspect to consider, when looking at load ratings. Always look for that UL 2416 listing. Another thing we wanted to focus on was increased security. So with this generation, there's only one way to access the cabinet, and that's through the front door. And once you get the front door unlocked, you then have access to an internal latch that you can swing that center chassis away. Some other aspects that we wanted to improve upon was the ability to retrofit this around an existing installation. Obviously, every installation is different, but I like to use the analogy of point of sale, retail space that has their router and minimal network gear up on a shelf, and you got wires hanging everywhere, and the need to build a secure enclosure around that without disrupting any of your connections or your network. And with some features in this new Qubit, you can do that through the installation process, and I'll show you how that works here in a bit. And then lastly, we're seeing, and I'm sure you're seeing it too, these types of enclosures being deployed in new spaces, more common public spaces, where historically they might be in some dark closet, that's stored with the mop bucket. But now they're being used more and more in conference rooms, classrooms, office spaces, where noise would be a problem, and oftentimes you're going to need a fan or multiple fans to cool whatever equipment you have inside. So we took a lot of time developing a low decibel fan kit that still provides as much, if not more, cooling capability as our standard single fan unit, but at a significantly lower decibel rating. So it just kind of hums in the background. It's kind of like a mini fridge running, very minimal noise and certainly not disruptive to the normal conversation. So with that, I'm going to switch over to the actual model. And again, any questions, feel free to speak up. But
yeah, I had a question for you on the load rating. Is that why, in order to get that load rating, is that why you don't have removable side panels on the unit?
That's right. Yeah, that's the primary reason. Yeah, the sides, this whole center chassis is an integral part to the structural integrity of it. In fact, I can zoom in here, and you can see these metal gussets here in the back corners. Those do most of the heavy lifting, but from that, it's important to maintain squareness and flatness on the mounting surface, so that to minimize the flex in the design. And because of that, yeah, we don't have removable side panels.
Do you think in like a version, a generation 4, where you have it, the one that's mounted on the wall that has casters on the bottom, where pretty much that cabinet is supported by the floor. Do you see a potential to have removable side panels? We put one of those in, and when you have that cabinet completely full of network wiring and switches, it's very difficult to actually add a jack in the center of that cabinet without having a removable side panel. So that's why I ask.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's our Cubit wall-mounted floor-supported cabinet. It's a much bigger design. It's a little bit wider than our standard wall mount, and it comes in 5 and 6 foot heights. It's kind of I'll show you the data sheet here in a bit, but it's kind of a middle ground between an open frame rack and a fully enclosed rack or cabinet. That's a good point. I mean, we could add that, and we have an entire segment of our business in our application engineering department that can take those kind of requests and design one for you, whether it's quantity 1 or quantity hundreds. We have the ability to do that. So just because you don't see it on a data sheet, just be aware that we have an entire engineering team dedicated to doing one-off requests. And it's actually a pretty big and important part of our business.
Because I see that, if I know that this cabinet is, let's say you had a SKU that was removable side panels, and you said, hey, this is a SKU and it's technically rated to 100 pounds, but we've tested it up to 400, 500, 600 pounds, and it's been fine. I would be perfect. I would probably pick that one over it just because now I have access to the side and I can make my lacing, just the way that I want it and whatnot. So yeah. I just bring that up because it's a nice feature to have, and on the lower end cabinets they all have them. But I understand with the weight requirements. I mean, that box is extremely rigid, and there is no way you're going to break that. And that's one of the reasons why I like it. It just can get a pain when you have a 5 foot tall cabinet and you need to get in the center of it and you don't have any side access. So
yeah. Okay, all right, good point. So on the screen now is really our highest running SKU, and it is a true cube. It's 24 inches by 24 inches by 24 inches. This one is configured with one of our 2 standard door options. This one has a tempered glass front door. You can kind of see the CPI logo there coming through. It is a privacy tent, so it's actually a little bit darker than what's shown on screen, but it allows you to see the blinking lights going on inside without providing complete visibility. The other door option is, instead of this tempered glass insert, it has just a painted metal insert. So we'll just start from front to back. Access to the cabinet is just through a simple quarter turn keyed lock. And then once you get the door open, and I'm going to hide the door just so things a little bit easier to see. Once you open the door, then you have access to this blue lever. And if you need to swing this entire center chassis off of the wall, you turn that blue lever 90 degrees and just swing it open. If you need to remove, especially during the initial installation, you need to separate this rear section from that main center chassis. These hinges are split, so there's a hinge pin inside with a set screw. You just remove the hinge and separate the 2 halves, and that's how you, that day 1 install, you would mount this center panel, this rear panel, excuse me, to the wall first, and then attach your rear chassis. Another thing I should mention is if you need to, for whatever reason, configure this to hinge from the right as opposed to the left, it's shown here, the whole thing simply flips 180 degrees. If you have the solid metal door, don't really need to do anything else. If you have the tempered glass door, we would prefer you to flip the glass so that the logo is upright. And the installation instructions that are shipped with the cabinet go through that process. It's about a 5-minute process to flip the glass insert. So I mentioned one of the things we wanted to do was offer the ability to retrofit this around an existing installation, and that's what's going on back here with this brush. This brush is an optional accessory, but this top section here and the bottom section, on the opposite side are identical, but you get a 1-inch knockout at either corner, and you get a 3-inch knockout right next to that for I believe it's 3/4 inch and 2.5 inch trade size conduits. Then here in the middle, I'll go and flip it on the bottom side since it doesn't have the brush installed. But here in the middle is more of a rectangular knockout. So if you do need to retrofit this around some cabling, you'll remove this centerpiece here. Then the top and bottom portions of this rear section come apart. You can see the hardware here to remove it. So when you have your top and bottom sections removed, you can then slide this entire back section behind your cabling, and then the cabling then gets captured when you reinstall the top and bottom pieces. And then to finish it off, you snap this optional brush in its place, and now your cables are captured in there. Gives a nice, neat finish to the installation. That make sense?
Yep, sure does.
Then you see a rubber grommet here that you can pop into these larger knockouts if needed. These are included with every cubit. They're molded with a little kind of pie shaped on one side, so you can score them with your box cutter just to run some cables through and give some edge protection to them. Then let's see, we'll stay on the back panel here.
So is that a pretty common scenario where people would retrofit that onto existing infrastructure?
Never
I would
done.
say not particularly common, but it does happen.
I will say, if I ever ran into that problem, this would be the solution that I would go towards, because you could pop your patch panels out and then put them in this cabinet. Any other solution, I've never seen one that you can do that with. So
yeah, so I'll just isolate this rear section. Makes it a little easier to see. Installation, pretty straightforward. We have these mounting points that are on 16-inch centers to hopefully pick up on some wall studs. We always recommend, plywood mounting, a plywood backer board anchored properly to whatever wall this is going on to. And then we supply the lag bolts for these locations. Then we also have this 6x6 opening. If you do have, you might have a power outlet from the wall or some other type of cabling come out of the wall. It gives you an area to bring it into the back of the chassis itself. Another nice little feature, convenience feature, is this here. This is a grounding point for a dual lug grounding wire. We mask this area at the factory prior to powder coating. So essentially it's ready to go. It's already prepped by us. When you get it in the field, all you do is remove that masking tape. You have bare metal already. Just attach your grounding wire and it's good to go. You got your bond. Some other features, you see these kind of raised areas, and I'll show you the accessory for that. But that's for some additional accessories where you can mount, say, a patch panel back in this back space out of the way. We have additional lashing points for cable slack that are formed in the sheet metal.
what I'd like to just jump in there. So one thing that we've done with the back pan is you can get a 2U right angle bracket. That's kind of shown there in the model. And so what we'll do is we have a customer where we he wanted a cabinet that wasn't very deep, so we went with the 18-inch, but then we needed a spot to mount a 2U network video recorder. So we got those brackets, screwed them in the back, the server mounted back there. It was in a locked cabinet, but it wasn't. And then we were able to bring all of our cabling in and have everything terminate in the rack normally. But then when you open it up, the server was in the back there. It's a great solution for that problem, and I know we're going to use it again. It's not something that we would typically do, but it's nice to have that option there if you need to fit something in a small spot and you're not trying to have the server just laying out and you want it in a locked cabinet. So
yeah, and that's this bracket kit here. There's aluminum brackets. They're already tapped with 1224 screws. They mount on either side. It gives you 1 or 2U of extra space back there. Then on the rails themselves, they're also aluminum. They're also tapped for 1224. We include, I believe, a 50 pack of screws with every cubit. And of course, they're adjustable front to rear, through this series of slots, the top and bottom. Then moving on to the fan kit. This is our standard fan kit shown here. So it's a single fan. It's 100 CFM. And it includes the filter. So previous generation of Qubit, the filter was an optional accessory. We've greatly simplified that and included the filter now with every unit. We do offer replacement filters. But here's the outside. It looks like this has this plastic bezel that snaps into the sheet metal, and you get access to the filter from there. But one important thing to consider and reasoning behind our fans is that they create a positive pressure inside the enclosure. And by doing that, it greatly reduces the amount of dust accumulation. So if you had an exhaust fan that was pulling hot air out, you're now creating essentially a vacuum inside the enclosure. And of course, where these things are typically installed, you're going to be sucking in a lot of dust. So that's why we do the opposite. And the reason why we recommend the fans being installed where they're shown here. So in this scenario, we have the fan mounted on one side, and then part of the standard fan kit, we have a blocking plate that goes on the opposite side of the fan. So what that does is it creates a positive pressure, and now the hot air can circulate up and out through the additional vents that are on either side at the top. I mentioned earlier, we developed a low decibel option of this. So it's a dual fan low decibel option. So it uses 2 fans, and they look identical to this one. You would simply have one on the left side as shown here, and then the other one on the right-hand side. The power cord is a Y-type cord, so they run off a single outlet. They spin slightly slower. The blade geometry is a little bit different, so that you get slightly more than 100 CFM from the 2. But again, like I said earlier, at a much lower decibel rating. So this is it's becoming a really popular alternative to the standard fan, especially for those more common areas. And moving on to some of the other accessories, we have a simple 1U 10-inch deep utility shelf. Oftentimes you'll see equipment that in a typically a rack-mounted type device that just needs to sit on the shelf. Simple utility shelf shown here. Then we have this lashing bracket. It's shown mounted in the back, but it just like the rails, you can mount this guy anywhere front to back to help tie up your cables. And let's spin it over here to this other side. And here we have a little 4U finger section. We sell these in pairs rather than what you may be used to seeing in like a full height finger style manager. With these types of enclosures, you typically don't need fingers top to bottom. So we decided to sell it in small little sections. You can double them up if you need more. Like I said, this is the 4U version. We have a 4U, 7U, and 11U. And through multiple combinations, you can create just about any type of cable support that you need.
You're referring to like high traffic, kind of like office environments where noise would be an issue. Is that what you mean by common area?
Yeah. Office spaces, classrooms. We have some of these installed in some of our training rooms or conference rooms. So yeah, areas like that where you just don't want that constant hum in the background.
Yeah, something that's not going to disturb the environment.
Yeah, right.
I wish I had known about this a while ago when I installed a bunch of switches and servers in a break room, and it was the noise was so unbearable. It upset a lot of people. So this definitely solved.
Yeah. So now we'll switch over to the before we switch over to the bigger brother of the qubit. This is our data sheet, which is all this information is available on our website, chatsworth.com. This is the qubit wall mount data sheet. Gives you lots of different specifications on it, but just to show you the various options on it. So we've got 3 different heights at 3 different depths, and then 2 different door styles. So that what you just saw earlier was the 24 by 24 by 24, but we also have an 18-inch depth, we have a 30-inch depth, and then a 3-foot and a 4-foot height, providing 19U and 26U of capacity, respectively. Some other features.
Does the lighting kit? And I've always just thought about getting that, but does that take up a 1U space, or does it mount somewhere else in the cabinet?
That's a good question. So I'll go back to the model here. I did have that tucked up in here. So this is our LED kit. Pretty basic. It just plugs in to whatever power strip you got loaded in here. Simple toggle switch to turn it on, but it mounts up here out of the way so it doesn't burn you. We have these features in the chassis with some special brackets that hold it into place.
Can that be mounted on the back of the cabinet as well?
Yep, it's all symmetrical. So the same feature is at the top, bottom, front, and back.
Great.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll show you on the data sheet as well that we have this listing of special power strips for the qubit, and these are just real basic power strips. For more advanced PDUs, we have some horizontally rack-mounted versions of this, but these special ones for qubit include the same type of bracketry that the LED light does, so you can mount it as well up and out of the way, and not in a valuable use space.
I did not know that. I've looked at this numerous times. Did not know that.
Yeah, that's the main difference. And then, of course, in our catalog, we've got a long list of 1 and 2U rack-mounted power strips and PDUs if you need more sophisticated power options. Okay, now I'll show you the wall-mounted floor-supported version. This is a little bit bigger. It's instead of 24-inch wide, it's 27.3 inches wide, and we operate in 5 and 6 foot heights. And just because of the size, this has a 1,000-pound load rating. Just because of the size, this is floor supported. So you can't really see it, but towards the bottom, there's 2 casters that support the weight as it pivots off the wall. But other than that, it shares almost identical construction to the smaller wall-mounted version, with a few minor exceptions. I mentioned the load rating, it's a higher load rating, obviously, for a much bigger cabinet. It does have a swing handle front door latch like you would see on a more of a data center type cabinet. But all the fan kits, all the accessories are the same, made it a lot simpler to order. The one difference on the rails themselves are that instead of tapped, these are square punched, and these include our clip nut hardware kits. I think most of you are probably familiar with clip nut at this point. I know there's some nice write-ups and nice videos that have been coming out lately. But for those of you that don't know, I do have some here. Well, that picks up on the camera, but it's a pretty simple solution to a traditional cage nut. I can definitely appreciate it, having bloodied up my fingernails many times removing the old style. But this one's super quick and easy to install and take off.
Are the wall mount floor supported ones any deeper, or are they the same depth?
That's a good question. Let's click over. I'll show you the available sizes. So we don't do the 18-inch depth, but we do 24 and 30-inch. And not on the data sheet, we can support a 36-inch depth as well.
So that'll support like a full 1U server chassis?
Yeah, other than maybe the really deep ones. We do have...
Still a little tight, right?
Yeah. See, I know on the wall mount we show... Okay, here we go. So we have a similar table on the wall mount cube, but here we show some different dimensional information. So we have overall depths, we have the cabinet body depths, maximum rail spacing, and then maximum equipment depth. And what that maximum equipment depth means is the maximum depth with the rails all the way forward the equipment can be, and still allow that center chassis to swing away from the wall.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So that's about all I have for an overview on Qubit. Happy to take some more questions, or if you want me to zoom into the model and focus on any particular feature, happy to do that as well.
I have a question, but it's about the global frame. Do you have any information on the brackets that come with the global frame cabinet? We're doing a project and we're doing about 40 of them. Those brackets that come shipped on the pallet, they say in the documentation they're good for mounting it to the floor. What is your...
The anchor brackets that secure the cabinet to the pallet?
Yes.
Right.
All right. Are they suitable? Do they meet the California code for earthquake brackets, or are seismic brackets required?
Oh, yeah. For California, it's going to be a different story. Yeah, you would need to likely do something different there.
Okay.
Been my experience that every area is a little bit different, and it usually falls on kind of what the local codes are. And
yeah.
Whoever, the local AHJ.
I wasn't sure. I just wanted to, perfect, since we're having this. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question on the click nuts. So one of the things is I really like them. My biggest gripe with them is that they're just so expensive when compared to just a standard cage nut. Is there a way to purchase these in bulk to where they line up a little bit closer to, just to give an example, like a middle Atlantic cage nut? That's what we've been purchasing simply because it was less expensive.
Yeah. And I'm curious, how long ago did you check pricing on ClickNet? Because we did lower the price substantially, not too terribly long ago.
I think about a month ago I did. I mean, okay. I just take the website price and then minus 30% from it, 35, and that's typically the price that I'm getting from Graybar. So I just plugged that in, and it didn't make a lot of sense to do that. So that's why we went the middle Atlantic route. But I like the click nuts a heck of a lot more.
Are you what pack size are you looking at?
We ordered 500 from Middle Atlantic, and I think, and I could be wrong, but I think they were about half the cost, maybe somewhere between a third and half.
Okay.
That's where. So.
Yeah, we have, I believe, 25 packs of 25, packs of 250, and then 1,000 packs on ClipNet. And they all include the screw.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, you know, the bigger the package size, the better the price will be.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, you know, we do believe that it's a better, superior solution.
Oh yeah.
And the time saving can be significant depending on the installation. So, and you can imagine, even though, you know, we include clip nets with a lot of our product, and we sell these things by the thousands and thousands, but the overall volume compared to all the cage nuts out there is relatively small. So there is some economy of scale there as well in play. But you know, especially for larger projects, I would encourage you just to get with whoever your local Chatsworth sales manager is, and we can work with you. And you know, obviously, we want as much of the business as we can get. So if we need to look at pricing on ClipNet, we can do that.
Because I, you know, when we get a Chatsworth rack in, we'll use the cage nuts that come with it, and then it's really sad when we run out, because then we have to regular cage nuts. But it's just for the price of it, you know, I think my cost for 1,000 was roughly in the 700 range. It doesn't make a ton of sense to do that, but I'll reach out to my Gray Bar rep and maybe ping Brittany on that and see what we can do about it. So
yeah, absolutely. And we actually have a program where if you need a ClipNet sample, I mean, by sample I mean some, not thousands, but we have a program where we can ship you out some samples if you do have you know, some other folks that may be listening that you know, if they want to get a sample of it, we can get them some. Just go to our website. You can find out lots of information there. We even have some live online chat on our website. You can actually speak to a real person that gets you whatever information you need.
gotcha.
So Mason, you're using Gray Bar for your
Yeah.
Chatsworth products.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where we get all of our Chatsworth products.
There's no other distributor in your area that you could tap into?
I haven't looked. I don't
gotcha.
really have an issue with Gray Bar. I actually really like working with them. I know other people don't, which I think is one of the drawbacks, one of the potential issues. I've had different luck. My first Gray Bar rep I was not a fan of, but the second one that I got was great. So I've continued to purchase from them. But I know they are, I think, the kind of the preferred vendor to go through for Chatsworth products, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
We've got quite a few, and on our website we have you can type in whatever region you're in, and it'll show you.
Gotcha.
Annixter and Westco also sell the Chatsworth stuff too, just in case you guys were wondering.
Yeah, Annixter and Gray Bar.
Yeah.
Accutech, yeah. There's some others. Yep.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Mason.
Since we're talking about this, is so we've put in a few Quadra racks, and I know Brittany sent me over some contact information. I just never got around to it. So better time than the present. The Quadra rack, my biggest gripe with it was I really like the Cubit enclosure because it's all closed in. You know, you can't see anything. You close it, it just looks nice and pretty. You see all the blinky lights on the front if you have the glass door, and you know, good to go. The biggest issue that I've had is going to the MDF closet. We'll use a Quadra rack to mount servers in and whatnot, but there's no ability that at least I'm aware of to mount side panels to that and to enclose the rack, because we still want to have our ladder rack come down and feed into that enclosure. But do you carry a rack that would be suitable, that would be in that same relative price range as a Quadra rack, but that would be enclosed?
So you say Quadra rack, and we have actually several different versions of that. The oldest being the original Quadra rack, which is for all intents and purposes two post racks bolted together.
Yes.
But then we also have our adjustable server rack and adjustable quad rack that lets you assemble it to a specific depth. You know, it has a depth range, but you assemble it to a specific depth and then anchor to the floor. And then a step above that is our adjustable rail quad rack that, you know, you assemble it to a depth, and then the rear pair of rails you can adjust independent of the frame. So just clarifying which version you're
the original one is
the original.
Yeah. Just the other ones didn't quite make a lot of sense. So we've just gone with the original where it's the two posts that bolt together.
Yeah, I would encourage you to have a look at the adjustable quad rack. It's bang for the buck. It's pretty strong.
Would that get me?
That's always my go-to.
Because I'm not really looking for any adjustability or more strength. I'm just looking for side panels to clean up the installation.
Right. And we have, through our application engineering team, we have some side panel solutions for the adjustable quad rack. Also, I'm going from memory, but I believe the adjustable quad rack is there's a price advantage to go in that route compared to the older traditional style. So you might just want to at least ask Graybar about that.
Okay.
It's definitely worth a look. But then I mentioned the adjustable rail quad rack. It's kind of our most feature-rich open rack solution, and we do have some accessory side panels available for that. I believe they're in the catalog.
Okay.
If not, then reach out to us and we can get you the information. But yeah, that one has quite a few accessories: side panels, a top-mounted kind of waterfall trough, even a finger kit that snaps into the face of the frame.
Do you have something that's more enclosed that it wouldn't be in the Quadrarack family? It would be in a different family. Just anything else that be in that suggestion for an
Yeah, there's really, once you start going beyond that, now you're looking at either, this Cubit floor supported cabinet that's on screen here, or from there, it's a full blown global frame cabinet.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Real quick, Mason, do you have any issues with convincing customers to go this route? I'm assuming this is more expensive than typical, open racks and maybe some of the lower quality ones, but have you experienced any issues convincing them?
No, we just don't really give them another option. I guess if that's
what I figured.
Yeah, it's either because it depends on the situation. I know this is a Chatsworth, but there's times where a Middle Atlantic rack makes more sense, and there's times where a Chatsworth rack makes more sense. And you're not going to go into a small mom and pop restaurant and probably hang a Cubit rack. You'll have to look at another solution, but I would say for 80 to 85% of the jobs that we do, we put a Chatsworth in because it makes the most sense. And usually it's within, it's economical enough to make it work. The only time where it's maybe a struggle is if we're doing, like we had a restaurant where a Cubit rack made a lot of sense. But the Middle Atlantic version was, maybe 30-40% less cost. And that took a little bit of, this would be the best choice for this and this reason. And it took a lot not to cut that out of the project because we needed to save money, but I knew it was the best solution because of the air cooling and because of the, the way that cabinet works. But I would say about 90% of the time it's not an issue. It would be nice, if we had, a more economical option, that where you could get it without the door on it. We don't always need the door on it. You could, if there'd be any way to save some cost on it and get it down to a dealer cost of that, for just as a point of reference, like a 12U, if dealer cost was 280 to 320, somewhere in that'd be really nice without a door. I could see us using it for more cases like that. So
you're talking about a Cubit without a door?
Yeah. So just to, if we're doing like an audio video install, we'll pretty much always do Middle Atlantic, just because there's no reason to have the door on it, because all the equipment you're going to be using, and then they also have a BNC pass through for antennas and whatnot. And it'd be nice to have a Qubit version where you could have a clean face on the front that didn't come with a door, because we don't always need a door on the front of the cabinet. I understand for networking you typically need a door, but if we're putting a small little cabinet in a residential space, or even in a restaurant, it may not be necessary to have a door, and it'd be nice to be able to order it without one and save some cost. So
we do have another product called our standard wall mount that it's a little more of a basic version of the Qubit. It's fixed, so you can't swing it away from the wall, but it's a little more economical solution that still includes a door, but it's fixed on the wall. It ships flat packed.
Does it have removable sides?
Not once it's installed.
Gotcha. So that would be difficult to wire in the future. What's the expectation of how to wire that, I guess, is my question.
Well, every scenario is going to be a little bit different, but I can appreciate the difficulty, and it's even in the best of access scenarios, it can be difficult just to get your hands in there and lashed and secured.
Yeah, I think what the beauty with that is having it hinged, you can get to the backside of it, and that if you have the full front of it filled out with equipment. So I think otherwise you'd have to, if you want to add a drop, you'd have to pull out like a neat patch or a horizontal cable management bar, to get in there. So that'd be my concern with it, because I have seen those before and I've considered it, but without the removable side panel, it makes it fairly difficult to do any work on it.
And Duke, you had mentioned some of the security features around Qubit, and was that the reason for not including the side panel? Because you had mentioned that on Monday when we spoke. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mentioned security. The previous version of Qubit, there was two access points, so two keys. There was a separate latch located on the side of the chassis that provided access to the rear of the unit. But with this version, we consolidated all that access to a single point at the front. So that's where I was going with security. But certainly, the fewer access points you have, naturally it's going to be more secure. But it was just the reduction in latches or access points in the cab is what I was referring to.
Gotcha.
Is any electronic latches that on the horizon for a new generation? So the reason why I bring that up is we have a couple facilities where we have to have mag locks on our cabinets, so that if a technician is going to access the life safety power cabinet, or they're going to access a network cabinet IDF, that they have to swipe their badge on a reader, which shows that they have gained access to that, and then the cabinet unlocks to get into it. Was wondering if there was any potential for an electronic latch system that you could tie into on any of these cabinets. I believe the vertical mount ones had some, you could order it with a pin pad, but I haven't seen that on the Qubit system.
Yeah, we have quite a variety of options there. One's, like you said, just a keypad solution. And then we also have our electronic access system, which is more of a swing handle with an access card that we can integrate into the Qubit. And that's that whole application engineering side of our business that I was referring to earlier. So we have existing solutions where we can put that specific latch onto a Qubit cabinet. The front door is going to look a little bit different just because the amount of real estate that type of latch needs, but it's something we've already done many times.
Okay. Is it possible to order new locks? So let's say I have a couple of cabinets where I put in CPI, and then I have some existing cabinets that could fit the same lock. I just unscrew the nut on the back of the lock, pull it out. Could I order additional locks that are keyed the same for your cabinet, so I could have everything on one key? Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, with most of our products, especially ones that are like cabinets and racks that have a lot of accessories, we'll have a service parts cut sheet that's available on our website. So that'll list any replacement type parts that you might need. If you don't see the specific lock on that sheet, then we can definitely get you replacements. Okay. Again, through our application engineering. So I keep referring back to our application engineering department because it really is, it's a catch-all for everything else that you might not see on our website or in one of our catalogs. But I come from that team originally, so I'm very familiar with it, and it's a really unique and cool feature of CPI that we have that resource available.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Well, Blake, that's all that I got on my, question.
Are you sure?
So
I love it, man. Yeah. Any other questions from anybody? Brittany she sent me the link to the find a distributor section on the website. That's really good. I actually looked up my zip code, and there's about 20 or 30 distributors, and Gray Bar is one of them. So
yeah,
thank you for
Blake. There's one question in the chat from Jonathan Lowry.
Oh, right. Thanks for reminding me. It's a silly question. He prefaces it. He says, is cubit a reference to the ancient unit of measurement called the cubit? Any idea, Duke?
Probably not. The cubit goes back, predates my time at CPI, and I've been around for almost 13 years. But I think it's just because the original design was literally a 24-inch cube, and then the kind of play on IT is the
it's the distance between a man's elbow and middle finger, which is 24 inches. Thanks, John. Any other questions from anybody? These have been good. All
Quick
right.
one here.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Do you ship to Canada?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
All the time.
I'll reach out to our Great Bar rep.
Yeah, we have a sales office in just outside of Toronto. Yeah, we've got good coverage in Canada.
Awesome. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, Duke, I appreciate your time, and Brittany, thank you for setting that up. I'm gonna publish this on our YouTube and LinkedIn as well. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. And Brittany is also in the Slack workspace, so she's pretty responsive in there. Yeah, we appreciate everybody's time, and hope everybody has a good rest of the day. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks.